Buenos dias, campeones. So I'm going to show you now some old work of mine, an old blog that I kept when I made art full time. Ways to kind of take what we've learned about cylinders and cubes and uh, lug nuts, funky shapes, and kind of put them into kind of a unique, interesting piece of art. So let's start with old work. So bounce over there. So this is a detail of a sketch that I was working on. But I just want you to look for just a second and notice, there's kind of box shapes in here. There's some cylinder shapes. Then there's some, all different kinds of shapes. So now let me show you kind of what it would become. So these are some process images. I didn't do the best job of lighting my work when I took these photographs back then. This is probably 6 or 7 years old. But you can see I took these kind of mechanical pieces that we've kind of learned how to draw, and I connected them together. So here's another kind of a detail. All of this started with pencil line drawings, and then I would paint them with watercolors. I would build layer upon layer to kind of create what you see. So here's kind of the finished product. Again, my photographing was not always the best back then, but you kind of get the idea. So I'd kind of fill in, the shape of a triceratops using these kind of machine pieces. Let's bypass this real quick. So here's another one that I did where I was doing a horse. Same thing though, if you look closely, you can see cylinder shapes. There is a lug nut shape. It's all kind of built into this creature that I would then paint with the watercolors. So that was another finished piece. So you just one more. So again, if you look closely, I know the image isn't necessarily the best, but you can see my sketching, my initial sketching. I'd fill in all of this space with these mechanical pieces, and then I would begin to paint. So that's kind of what I want to show you today. That's an old picture, long hair. So that's kind of where it ended up. So let me jump over to my document camera. It is make it full screen. And just want to show you a couple of tips about how to go about doing this. So I've got my piece of paper here. I would strongly encourage you to use a pencil. However, I am going to use a pen mainly because I want you to be able to see what I'm going to create. Pencil, you'll see why in just a moment why pencil's the better tool for this drawing that I'm getting ready to make. Alright, so I've got a ink pen here. And I'm just going to start. So most of the time, these drawings that I created really started as doodles. They started more as something like this, which was just kind of filling up space with some random shapes that I would connect in funky ways. So let me start. I'm going to start by creating, let's see, a box shape. So I'm following the same rules that we've talked about before. So you can see I've tried to make these lines parallel and these lines as well parallel. I'm going to put a cylinder inside this shape, so I'm going to start by drawing what would be the top of my cylinder, and then I'm going to extend that cylinder. Now I'm going to finish this box, so I'm going to imagine that the lines come on the other side of my cylinder and that they would connect out here. So you can kind of see where I'm going. My cylinder, I can't draw the bottom because the bottom would kind of go into another shape that I would see here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that shape. I'm imagining that cylinder kind of comes through, and I'm just going to, I think I'm going to make this kind of a funky shape. So I'm matching parallel lines here. These lines are not parallel on purpose. I'm just kind of making these shapes a little bit different from what you might expect. And then I'm going to, again, I'm following my rules of parallel. So these two lines will be parallel. And I'm making them about the same length. And I'm going to connect with a line that is also almost parallel. From this one, I'm going to do something again that's funky. I'm going to create another cylinder shape. So I'm just going to create that half of the curve. And this time when I make that cylinder, I'm going to bend it. So I'm just going to cause it to a loop in a funky way. And I'm going to finish this box shape here, just like I did the previous one, by imagining that those lines would connect there. And now I've got the end of this cylinder shape, and I don't know yet what it's connecting to. I'm really just making this up as I go, but I am going to draw that half of a curve so that I've completed that cylinder. And now I think I'm just going to go ahead and make another cylinder shape here. So I'm going to draw a part of that circle. It's going to come all the way around. And I'm going to extend some parallel lines. So here's a line, and I'm going to make this other line parallel to that. So now I've got kind of another cylinder shape here. I'm going to remember that this curve here, I want to try to match out here. So I'm just going to draw that shape. And again, guys, I'm just playing right now. So on the end of that, I'm going to make what I would call a cone shape, which is a cylinder, but instead of the lines that make up the edge of the cylinder being parallel with each other, I just kind of, you can see I just kind of flare them out in that way. And then I'm going to try to match, again, this curve with a big curve that I've got out here. So you can see I've kind of added like a cone shape there. Again, I'm just totally making this up as I go. From that cone shape, because I'm still just kind of playing, I'm going to extend a couple of shapes. I'm going to extend box shape. So I'm going to draw two parallel lines there that I'm going to connect. Like I said, I want it to be a kind of a rectangular box, so I'm going to draw another line that would make the end of that box. You can see I'm just kind of extending it there. I'm also going to add another cylinder. I'm going to have that one go off kind of in a different direction. And I'm going to make it another, I said cylinder, but I'm going to make another kind of cone shape. So I'm making it come down to a skinny shape. So again, I'm knowing that this is a rounded shape. I'm just going to round the end of that. And so again, I'm just looking and playing. I'm thinking about what shapes I might extend off this. So I'm going to create kind of an open box shape here, but watch how I do this. I'm going to curve it. So the open box, I'm imagining this cylinder goes inside that open box. So I'm drawing that line. I'm going to extend it down here. Going to continue that line up, and I'm going to make the line that I'm going to connect to it kind of parallel again. And now at the end here, I'm just going to kind of finish off that box. Now I want this box to be three-dimensional, so I'm going to draw some lines. So I'm going to draw another one here. I'm going to make it parallel to this line, and I'm going to make it the same length. So that's kind of the end of my box. And then I'm going to connect. So again, I'm making a line parallel to this line, just connecting it there. So I'm just basically taking the tools that we've started to work with, and I am applying them to this shape that I'm creating. So you can see I've added a box, but it's a curved box. It's kind of funky. Could be almost like a hammer. A lot of times when I make these drawings, I don't know what they are. I'm really just playing. So let's see. From this guy, I'm going to extend kind of a funky shape. So I'm going to kind of expand my box out. So again, it is a box shape, but because I'm breaking some of my rules of parallel, it opens that box up. It makes it wider at the top. So now I'm going to draw a slightly larger box up here. Now here I am going to try to follow the rules that I've given you before. So these are parallel lines, and I'm making sure that they are the same length. So that's important. I'm going to draw another one here, and I'm going to try to make it the same length as the two other lines that I've drawn. I'm going to connect these with lines that are parallel to the ones that are across from them. So now I've got kind of almost like a lantern shape. Sometimes I'll do something fun. I'll just create like almost like a spear shape. So I'll add just a half circle here, and that kind of makes this whole thing now like a bubble. So this is kind of an extension, and this is what I would like to encourage you to do. If you feel like you finished the other 3 exercises, then I'm going to encourage you to make a drawing like this. Just kind of play. You can make it fit into a shape similar to my dinosaurs that I shared with you, or you can just kind of make it kind of free flow in the way that I'm doing here. I look forward to seeing what you guys do. Thanks for watching.